You may have noticed it's getting dark, and that's because I've been faffing around with Sony's colour all day trying to get it in the right place for just a YouTube video. So can you imagine doing that on a feature film or a narrative length, drama? Every scene has to be lit, but then you got the camera and you have to set that up properly in terms of the colour and not just S-Log. Can't just shoot it with S-Log, because then it's like the white balance is baked in to S-Log. So what do you do about that in post? So in the end, I just decided to get the A9 and drop this on the floor where it belongs and just use the A9 to shoot this video, because for some reason I'm quite happy with the look of the A9 in the creative styles. And then once I apply my fix for the dynamic range in Premiere with my LUT, the EOS HD dynamic range enhancer, shameless plug, it looks beautiful. It raises up the blacks, plenty of information down there in the blacks, plenty of colour information, good dynamic range overall. You can see with the light bulb it's not all that blown out really, and it's about equivalent to what you get when you grade S-Log anyway in terms of dynamic range. But it's so much easier to deal with, and the consistency from shot to shot is much better. I still think that S-Log 3 is a nightmare, and S-Log 2 has never been right, and it really is time that Sony either developed a flat profile like a Turner, or just copied Canon log, because that's perfect in terms of the colour science, the dynamic range, how easy it is to grade. So it is one thing that Sony continue to get wrong. The other thing about the A7S Mark III is that the crappy resolution of the sensor at 12 megapixels sort of ruins your APS-C crop mode, and certainly at 2 times crop for a C-mount lens. If you want the Super 16 look, not in 4K, no, it's not going to work. There just isn't enough resolution there. And on the A9, it's got a lovely crisp APS-C, well, in comparison. And it's not as oversampled as the A7R cameras. Like the A7R Mark IV has the best crop mode detail, but it's a lot better than this, and this is the higher end video orientated camera. So I really wish that Sony would use like a quad Bayer sensor, perhaps like a 46 megapixel sensor, which could double as both low light 12 megapixel at 4K and have that extra information and resolution when you need it. So I've got some stuff on this table which I'd like to talk about. I've also got some mints. So here we go. We've got a laptop here where we can examine the images and see what's wrong with all these cameras, because all of them are completely wrong. So in terms of the best colour science on the market, it's not Sony, obviously. We've got the Canon R6 and we've got the Leica SL2. And aside from Fuji, who do a pretty good job with colour, I'd say these two were probably pretty good. But we've also got Kodak film. Now, I don't know if the Japanese camera engineers have ever heard of film, but if they have, if they just get a reel of this, stick it in an Arri camera in their office one day and have a look, see the image, the colours are rather good. Maybe just copy that and put it in your cameras. Just a thought. Like, if you've ever seen, film at Sony, perhaps you might want to copy this, yeah? And then maybe your cameras might look a bit more cinematic. So what's wrong with these then? Well, the SL2, you may remember I did a review of this where the battery was giving a voltage issue. So in order to get around this, you have to reduce the resistance of the battery by using 2. So Leica will sell you an £800 battery grip for this. Pounds not as in weight, but as in gold, as in money. £800. That's $1,000 for a battery grip. Now, I told them to issue a firmware update to fix it. Well, I suggested it. I didn't tell them. I didn't go, "Oi, Leica." Well, I kind of did actually, but anyway, I was told that they'd be working on a fix and they would investigate, and nothing happened. It's still broken, and I'm still £5,400 down the drain. A camera I can't use for video, so thank you, Leica, for that. The SL2S is out now, which has tanked the value of the original SL2, and nobody wants to buy it off me. If you do know someone who wants to buy a Leica SL2, then let me know. So that's not usable for video at all, but it has great colour signs. Now, the other colour signs wonder is the EOS R5 and the EOS R6. Now, the R6, as we know, is somewhat crippled by the big cripple hammer. So, although it's got a very nice 10-bit C-Log mode, the rolling shutter is atrocious. You can't edit the files in Premiere. You have to learn different editing software just to edit the files. You can't use aperture priority mode to control your aperture creatively whilst having the camera do an automatic exposure, which is fundamental to run and gun shooting and documentary work. So it's not got a top display, it's not got dual pixel RAW, which the original EOS R had, which is a lot cheaper, and plus it's made by Canon. So it's not exactly going to find a lot of favour with me. I think as a 1DX Mark III owner, that's the camera I'm going to use for stills predominantly, but that has actually pretty similar video features, if not better, and it's got Canon RAW internal recording, which this hasn't got. So if you're going to go for a 20 megapixel Canon camera for the colour science, don't go for the EOS R6. Don't go for the Cats in a Fireball camera, R5. Go for the 1DX Mark III. It's a DSLR with a big flappy mirror, but it works for me. And thumbs up to the Sony A9, which I'm filming this on. This has the best colour science of the Sony cameras. I don't know why, but it hasn't got S-Log. But then, having seen the results of S-Log, I'm not sure I'm that bothered.